guys, Jess here. Welcome to another albertaeventer vlog. This video will be a little bit different. I'm doing sort of a 2017 stats video. What I use to keep track of all my rides at the barn and everything I do are these books. The past 2 years I've used one. This is my 2017 one. It's been through a lot, as you can see. And then my 2018 one is pretty much exactly the same. Whenever I go home for Christmas, my hometown, my very small hometown, the hardware store gives away these for Christmas. B&E Hardware, they give them to their clients and customers and that sort of thing for free, so when I go up I either snag one or my sister snags one for me, and they work awesome. They've got big pages, the whole month is laid out. I do sort of horses I ride, and then write lessons beside if I need to, and how many hours of chores or how much work I do at the barn. But I like that most planners are so tiny and you're trying to fit everything in a little tiny space, but this actually has lots of room, lots of space to record all the things that I do. So I find them super awesome. So hopefully the hardware store continues to do these every year, because if they don't, I'll have to go find something else like this somewhere else, because this is the best one I've found for keeping track of all of my things. So for 2017, I wrote down lots of things in this book, actually. I've got the number of rides I did, how many times I rode Twiggy, my hours of chores, how many lessons I did. And seeing it all sort of put together at the end of the year is really cool, and I wanted to share it with you guys. So, starting off, I sort of have it all broken down. This is not organized at all, but it's sort of what I have to go on. I don't do chores full-time. I just sort of help out wherever they need me to, or if I do things here and there, I write that down as hours. So overall, for 2017, I did 274 hours of chores or other work. I did 177 lessons. I gave 177 lessons. And I was pretty busy through part of the year, teaching like over 30 lessons a month, which to some isn't a lot, but I don't do it. That part isn't full-time. It's just sort of fitting lessons in wherever I can, around the horses I ride and all the other things I need to do. I rode Twiggy 189 times. That includes clinics and things like that, and being away from home. Horses I rode / worked, so some of that's lunging, but I didn't write down which is which. This ended up being a huge number, actually, and I guess it makes sense because I do this full-time. The horses are the full-time part. I rode 758 horses in total, ones I got paid for, and that sort of thing. And then if you add on the 189 times I rode Twiggy, that's 947 total rides in 2017, which is amazing. That works out to at least a few every single day. And I only work weekdays. I generally don't work weekends, but if I went and rode at clinics on weekends and stuff, that's all included. Alice, what are you doing? No, go. Go out. So it's sort of a neat thing to keep track of, because like, I know I ride a lot. Sometimes I ride 7 or 8 horses a day, but to see it all in a big number at the end of the year, it's pretty amazing, actually. It sort of makes me think that I'm glad I have a really active job, because I'd be like really, really fat if I didn't. Which is sort of funny. I went to 8 events in 2017 with Twiggy. 2 were California, and 1 was in Montana, 2 were in BC, and the rest were Alberta. I did 10 clinics in 2017. I rode twice with Sandra Donnelly, twice with Matt Brown, Hawley, Bennett, Jessica Phoenix twice, Kyle Carter, Peter Gray, and Jay Duke. And it's pretty neat because almost everybody on that list has been to the Olympics. So that's really saying a lot of the increased caliber of clinics we've been having in Alberta lately, which is amazing. We've really, really stepped up our game. And now we're getting awesome horses and riders, the awesome help they need to keep learning and progressing and reaching those higher levels of competition and those higher goals for themselves. 3 big road trips made in 2017, California, Chase Creek in BC, and Rebecca Farms in Montana. Chris, I'm making a vlog. What? I'm making a vlog. What are you doing? So in going along with the stats theme, I sort of did a little tally of my social media stuff. As of right now, YouTube, I have 5,925 subscribers, which is crazy. It still sort of blows my mind that many people watch my videos. I'm up to over 900,000 total views, and that's only been growing as I add more and do more vlogs. And I still have a whole bunch of helmet cams from last year that I still haven't put on my YouTube, which I really need to get on. Chase Creek, Kyle Carter Clinic. I've got a ton of stuff still that I need to get up eventually. And I have published 314 videos in total on my YouTube. And so I want that to keep growing, and I need to be more prompt in uploading things, and it's hard to sort of find the time sometimes to edit and upload, especially in the eventing season where I don't have a weekend or a full day to sit around and do all that, but I plan to be better about that this year, and plan to be more regular with the vlogging too. I'd like to aim for every 2 weeks to get out a vlog, but we'll just see how that goes. And I definitely want to vlog at the events and at the places I go this year, at the clinics, like Rebecca Farm. It's all stuff I wanted to do last year, and that sort of got all put on the back burner last year with losing Sonny and some other stuff that was going on in my life. But anyway, social media, back to the social media. Instagram, 4,556 followers. Facebook, my Facebook page has 1,320 followers, and that's all growing. It'd be growing a lot more if I posted regularly on everything, but I go through phases where I post every day for a week or two, and then I don't post for like 2 or 3 weeks. And I'm not organized enough to go and pre-make all the posts to go up and like schedule things. I feel like that's a little too, not fake, but I'd rather have it just be me posting when I have things to post about, not thinking up things so I have something for people to see every week or so. That sort of makes more sense in my mind, have it be more sort of me and personal instead of scheduled blather that just shows up just for the sake of things showing up. When I was tallying all this up, I had some ideas of other things I should keep track of, like how many stupid injuries I have in the year, which I don't know if you can see, these fingers are bandaged at the moment. Which is sort of funny. At a horse, we have a little tiny Liverpool. We've got like a huge 10x10 one of like the plastic ones with the foam around the edges that you roll out. And we also have like a little tiny, it's probably like 4 feet by 2 feet. And we've had it out to work with some of the horses on, and I went to walk one of the horses I was riding over it, and most of them all walk over everything. So I didn't really think twice about it. I just let the horse go slow and sniff it, and then as the horse went to step, he hit it, wigged out, flailed around, had some nice leaping and things, and the saddle slipped and I ended up coming off. But then I'm like sitting on the ground and I'm like looking at my hand and I'm like, why the hell is my hand bleeding? It was just like blood everywhere. And I don't know what I did to myself in the process of it, but all the skin on my fingernails like ripped away from, or the skin on my fingers like ripped away from the fingernail. So I have some lovely pictures, and now they're all bandaged up, and I look like Frankenstein. So, yeah, keeping track of, dumb injuries and how many times I fall off, I think it'll be something I tally up as well, just for entertainment's sake for 2018. Yeah, and I also wanted to add in, I've got a few questions that I get asked pretty frequently, and one thing I'd like to start doing on this channel ever so often is Q&A sort of vlog episodes where people can ask me certain things, or whatever they want, and I'll answer it for you. Anyways, I've got 3 of sort of the most common questions I get asked on my Instagram, my YouTube, and that sort of thing, or just even in person, and I thought I'd answer them for you guys. Sort of the number one is how do you keep Twiggy in shape, and how do I condition for the eventing season? So being blessed with thoroughbreds, it's actually a lot easier than a lot of people have It's a lot easier than a lot of people with warm bloods is what they have to do. I arrange sort of a lot of my conditioning and training around this book, Robin Hahn's Event Horse Conditioning Training System. I got a couple years ago, and it's really cool, it's really interesting. They've got all sorts of conditioning programs for the different levels, ideas, how you lay out your week, and I really like it. There's lots of different stuff out like this. Peter Gray had a really good bunch of conditioning items he showed in his slideshow when I rode with him at the main event. And like Jimmy Wofford, Denny Emerson, they always are talking about different conditioning things. So this is just sort of what I model my training after. And what people don't realize is a lot of your conditioning can get done in your flat rides. Your dressage rides, riding every day, that's the time. And I think I'm probably more aware of it than a lot of people because I have multiple horses to ride, so I could just get on, piddle around, have like an hour, 2-hour ride, and just do whatever I wanted. But having to be efficient about my day, if I've got 8 horses to ride, I can't spend an hour or more with each of them or else I'd never be home, ever. So I end up riding, it's usually about 30 to 40 minutes, but it's pretty, not super intense, but you get your shit done. You walk around for a few minutes. I hate when people just get on and they go trot. I feel like I have to get on for the horse's mind, for their well-being. You just get on, you walk around on a loose rein, start to take up the contact, and then you go to work. But I find most of of my rides, the work I do, I walk a little bit, I trot a bunch. I might have like a minute-long walk break in between my walk and my trot, my trot and before I canter. And then I canter one way probably for at least 5 or 10 minutes, and I'll do some transitions in here and there, and it just depends on the horse too. Young horses, it's very sort of condensed, and I usually don't end up riding them for more than sort of 25-30 minutes, but it's sort of the same process. So I'll do a walk for a few minutes, warm up, like 5 or 10 maybe, trot for 5 or 10, have a little bit of a minute or 2 walk break in between, canter one way, work on transitions, have a minute or 2 walk break again, canter the other way, work on transitions, whatever I need to. And then I'll have another minute or 2 walk break, do some more trot, maybe another 5 or 10 minutes, and then I'll walk for another 5 or 10 minutes or 15 or however long it takes them to cool out. So it's sort of hilarious when in the span of like when one person comes to ride, like a normal border person, comes to the barn, rides their horse, they're there for an hour, 2 hours, and in that time I've ridden 3. So, but my horses are all sweaty, they've worked hard, I'm working up a sweat, I'm warm, I'm working hard too. So having your flat flat rides be a little bit more intense, a little more structured, and not so much just like walking around yakking with your friends, which socializing is a great part of the barn atmosphere, don't get me wrong, but I like to make my time in the saddle count, so. And it's amazing when I get asked to ride other people's horses. I get on and I go to ride them, and they can't even canter for 5 minutes. It's kind of crazy. So, easy way. Amp up your flat rides. Have a plan, make everything count. Yeah, make it a little more intense. Work yourself, work your horse. Quality, not quantity. I'd rather ride for 20 minutes and have it be good and focused and getting it done, rather than ride for an hour and get nothing accomplished. I generally follow, in the summer, I find eventing is way easier to condition for than other horse equestrian disciplines. Like jumper shows, sometimes you go to long jumper shows, you're jumping 5-6 days in a row. That sort of blows my mind. Eventing, we have dressage, we have cross country, we have show jumping. So my conditioning for those, I'll do a couple of times, probably once every 2 weeks. I'll do this sort of 3-day pattern in there, along with my flat rides and jumping and everything else in my conditioning rides. I'll do a really, really intense dressage school one day, simulating day 1, the dressage. Second day, I'll go out and I'll do a fairly intense conditioning day, whether it's hacking, trot sets. I might go for a little gallop in the field. I'll do that on day 2, so there you've got your endurance day, your cross country. The odd time I might, after all that, come back in the outdoor ring and pop over a few jumps, maybe just 5 or 10, just a little course or 2 at the end. And then third day, I'll have a jump lesson or do a more intense jump school. So I've got my 3 days in a row simulating my 3 days at an event, which is really, really helpful. Alright. So question number 2, where did I get Twiggy from? That's sort of a funny story. She was actually born and bred at the barn I work at. For quite a few years, my barn owner, my boss's husband, had sort of a little thoroughbred breeding program. He stood his own stallion and had a handful of mares, and they bred, and that was his hobby. He bred them, sent them off to a trainer, and they raced. And it was just sort of like a fun thing on the side, because they're quite a large warm blood breeding facility. And so it was sort of fun and interesting to have the thoroughbreds, because that's his passion, is the thoroughbreds and the racing and all of that. So they eventually sold the stallion and sort of sold most of the brood mares. We've got a couple of the old ones still hanging out in the field. They're all retired now, but it's sort of cool to see some of the mares and where it all sort of started and came from. But Twiggy was one of their last ones that they had, and she raced for a couple of years, did pretty well. She won like 60 grand on the track and raced a little bit in the States. And for an Alberta thoroughbred, that's fairly decent. So yeah, so after she was done racing, they brought her home. She went out in a paddock or pasture, the pasture she lives in now actually, and she sort of hung out there for a year and a half. She was always a cow to catch, which is hilarious. And usually what would happen with the ones that were done racing, they'd come home, have a few months, 3-6 months off, and then they just get restarted a little bit, and the barn would sell them for fairly cheap, sort of like mid 4 figures sort of thing. And so that was sort of the plan with Twiggy. So when she had had quite a nice vacation, not wanting to be caught and all of that, and my barn owner, my boss barn owner, was like, thoroughbred out there in the pen, and Sunny was living in that pen too, actually, at the time. They're like, if you can catch her, you can ride her. Like, she needs to go back to work, she needs a job, we need to do something with her. So having her being a cow to catch, it took a while to walk her down, and I caught her and worked with her a little bit, lunged her a little bit, got on, walked, trotted a few times, and then she was really good, really sort of quiet and very composed, or lots of thoroughbreds are just like, ah, and they're very sort of dramatic and emotional about things, and she was quite good, actually. And then the first time I cantered her, it was like, I need this horse. It was like the nicest canter I'd ever sat on, and at that time when I still had Sunny, it was such a stark contrast from Sunny's canter, which I had worked for 8 years to try to make better, and Twiggy's coming out of the pasture off for a year and a half was already like a million times better than Sunny's would ever have been. So that was sort of cool. But then, yeah, I sort of worked her for a month or two, and then I was like, okay, no, I need to have this horse. So I talked to my barn owner, and we came to an agreement, and she was mine. So that's how that came to be. Sort of the stars align. And the few times I've bought horses, I've had that feeling. I just get on and I know this is my horse. Happened with Sunny, and I don't know why, because she was a cow. She bolted, she was bucking, she was a maniac. But there was just something about her. And the same with Twiggy. As soon as I canted her, I was like, I have to have this horse. So yeah, so she's mine. She's been mine for 3 years now. And yeah, we'll see where things go from there. And then another common question we have, I get a lot, is any exciting 2018 plans? This year is sort of not super exciting, but it's sort of my time to have Twiggy get more experience, sort of fill in all the little holes that have been missed. With Sunny, it was a lot different because she was so difficult. It took me a long time to get to prelim with her. It took like 5 years, and I'd never gone to prelim on any other horse before. Sunny was basically the first horse I ever evented, so it was sort of my learning curve, and her learning curve being a lot more difficult than most horses. And then now with Twiggy, she's been so much better, so much less emotional baggage, so much more straightforward. We've gotten up to prelim in 2 years, which is fairly quick, but I don't feel like I've skipped a lot of steps with her. Like, I don't feel like I've rushed things along, but I feel like prelim is where she's going to get the most experience. And so I definitely want to spend at least half the season at prelim before thinking about moving up. I'm not planning on a 1-star this year. The way the Equine Canada stuff goes, or Equestrian Canada rather, you have to pay for all your FEI stuff before you can even declare, where before it used to just be you could fill out a piece of paper and pay everything when you actually went to enter. So Budget-wise, that's not in the cards this year. But for next year, I'd like to do a 1-star. And when I do a 1-star, like, I'm not rich. I'm definitely not rich. But when I do it, it has to count. And this time, I want to do well. Like with Sunny, I did a 1-star for the sake of doing a 1-star. I'd never done one before. I picked a place we knew really well to do it. I picked a place where I knew there wouldn't be a lot of entries. We ended up 3rd. And so I sort of used that to my advantage, having the 1-star at Chase Creek, where I loved, Sunny loved, we jumped everything in like multiple clinics and camps there and events there, which was awesome. But for Twiggy, she's way nicer than Sunny. I'm a way better rider. I want to actually be competitive when I go. So next year probably, as far as moving up to intermediate, maybe Rebecca, maybe. We'll just see how it goes. I'm not in a rush for that either. I feel like with Sunny, one of the things that made her so good is that I had to spend so much time on prelim before I could even think about moving up, and she got so much life experience. We saw almost everything that you would see on cross country in those, God, what, 4 years? 3 years, 4 years competing at prelim? And so I definitely want Twiggy to be that confident and that brave when we go intermediate. So yeah, nothing too crazy this year. We'll be getting more experience at the Alberta events we haven't been to this year. I haven't been to Beaumont with Twiggy. We're going to do that. Cochrane with Twiggy. We haven't done that either. And then just sort of see how it goes from there. Definitely going to Rebecca. Don't know what I'm doing yet, but we'll just see. I have lots of time to figure it out. So yeah, that's my 2018 plans. Get more experience at prelim. Maybe an upgrade if we need to. I'd love to be solidly schooling 2nd level dressage on Twiggy. Sitting the tests have always been a little bit of a struggle for us since she's a typical sensitive thoroughbred. Yeah, and I want to be confidently marching around the meter 20s before we move up. So yeah. So I'm planning on doing more of these Q&A videos in the future. If you guys have something you want to ask me, something you want answered, it can be about me, my horses, my training, my job, basically anything. I'm pretty much an open book. Ask away, leave it in the comments. I think I'm going to wrap it up here. I wanted this to be a little bit shorter, getting the stat stuff and a little bit of a Q&A done, and then I hope to be back in a couple of weeks with more vlogs and fun stuff for you guys. So if you like this, like my channel, subscribe, leave a like, comment, yeah. What else do you want to see from me? What questions do you have for me? I'll try to answer them in a future episode, so yeah, alright, so we'll leave it here, say goodbye, and we'll see you guys all in the next one. Peace out.